Roots into Law with Stefanie Smith. Supported by Tiger Law, a new breed of law firm for you and your business.
Hello and welcome to this instalment of my Roots into Law series. Today, on a Sunday early morning, I'm joined by Stacie Pettman. Stacie and I met in, is it 2017?
Yes, it was.
It is, isn't it? That's when we started. Yeah, so Stacie and I met in 2017 when we both attended the Law Training Centre in Kent, where we started studying to become legal executives through CILEx. And it just so happened to be that Stacie and I live in the same town. And so we quickly became quite good study buddies. We also share the same birthday, which is quite cute, although I am considerably much older than Stacie. So welcome, Stacie. Thank you for taking the time, especially at the weekend, to contribute to this today. So I'll start by asking you to introduce yourself and tell people listening a bit about you and what you do and where you're kind of at with your studying.
Okay, so I am a paralegal for Mowll Mowll Solicitors in the commercial department. I've been there for 10 years. I started when I was 20 or 21 as a legal secretary. And prior to that, I had been a waitress. So they really took a chance on me because I didn't have a lot of office experience. But yeah, I've just worked my way sort of through the motions and gained experience and things. So and then here I am today. Started CILEx 3 years ago, and hopefully finishing next year with my final exam, all being well.
Fabulous, that's very exciting. And what did you want to be when you were growing up?
At school, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to be. So for my A-levels, I chose subjects that just interested me. So I did geography and philosophy and things. But to be honest, I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to be in a role that was quite customer focused or client facing. And I quite liked problem solving. I wasn't particularly creative. I was more sort of academic.
Okay.
But yeah, I wasn't actually too sure.
So you went to Dover Girls Grammar School, did you?
That's
right, isn't it? And did you do your A-levels there?
Yeah, I did my A-levels there. And then following that, I did go to university to do psychology. But I quickly learned that I wanted to just get working and get my foot in the door somewhere, gain, office experience, and sort of, I think that route suited me more, to kind of start somewhere and then work my way up sort of while you're in the job.
And so is that when you started at Mowll Mowll?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So I'd been waitressing part-time around sort of university, and then I did a Pettman training course to sort of gain secretarial skills and things, which is sort of how I got the job at Mowll Mowll. I started off as in a typing pool, which was quite good because I had experience in all the different fields of law. Just sort of obviously from an admin secretarial point of view, but it was really interesting because I just got to see how it worked, it works in all the fields. And then I kind of stemmed, I went off sort of more into the property side of things and residential and commercial conveyancing. And then eventually I was just the secretary for just the commercial department.
Okay. And so was it in that role that you decided to pursue the CILEx route to qualifying? And how did you find out about it?
I think I just, my brother actually did the traditional route from school. He went to university, he did his LPC and he got a training contract. But I knew I needed something that gave me flexibility, because by this point my daughter had started school, and I knew I had more time to study, but I needed to keep earning money and keep working and gaining that experience. So I think I just probably Googled, to be honest, ways you can study and the ways it can be done. I looked at the Open University because they do offer a similar thing, where you can study part-time in your own time. But the CILEx route really was attractive to me because you could focus on one area of law, and the flexibility of it was just really essential for me. And at the time, the study centre where we met, they were doing optional evening classes.
Yeah.
And I think, that was good for me because it gave that balance of independent learning, but also you could go and meet students and you could go and, talk about the subject, which is also really helpful. So it's just a good balance of everything, really.
Yeah, that's actually what appealed to me in the first place with the Law Training Centre, was that you could go along. And because I'd been out of education for so long, I didn't really know what to expect or what I'd never been in the university environment or studying at that level. I'd never even done A-levels. So that kind of more in-person environment was what appealed, I guess, in the beginning.
Yeah, so definitely.
Fabulous. And so were you supported by your employer with your studying?
Yeah. I think having a supportive employer generally is, really beneficial when you're studying. But yeah, they supported me with the course, which has been obviously brilliant, and I'm really lucky to have had that. And I mean, they're great anyway with sort of time off for exams and for questions from my supervisors, and yeah, and it really helps.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it does actually. And of course, studying and working at the same time, you are just putting it all into practice, aren't you? As difficult as it is, it does make a difference. And so obviously you would have had the option to do the university route, because you can do it part-time. Was there a reason why you didn't choose that flexibly rather than going the CILEx route? Was there a difference in your mind between qualifying as a solicitor or qualifying as a legal exec? Was there a comparison?
No,
did it not matter?
To me, it didn't matter. I think CILEx was attractive because you could sort of focus on the area that you were working in. Obviously, there are core subjects at level 3 that you have to do. But when you get to the sort of second stage, you can just really focus on the work that you're usually already doing, which I thought was good.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense, because then it is very much kind of your specialist area, isn't it, with CILEx? And I think for me, and from kind of people I've spoken to, when you're already working in law, you tend to know the area you would quite like to qualify into. And CILEx, of course, has that advantage in that you can kind of focus your studying on your particular area.
Definitely.
Okay. And so if you were to have your time again, would you choose a different route, or do you think that you would go with the CILEx route again?
No, I think I would definitely go with the CILEx route. I think that the flexibility is great. When you've got work, can be really busy sometimes, and then it can be quieter at other times. When you've got family commitments and things like that, I think that the flexibility it offers is just essential if you've got a busy life anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. And so how have you kept on top of everything? Because that's a question that people often ask, and it's something that people sometimes find difficult to comprehend, especially when you've got children, especially young children, and you're working. And how do you do all of that so successfully?
A high level of self-motivation, which I didn't know I had until I started studying. I think being organised is essential as well. So when my daughter's at her taekwondo class, I'll take my books, because that's a vital hour that I can sit there and read. I think, if I am getting up early in the morning to study, then I will set everything out the night before, because I know myself that I'm more likely to just sit down and do it if I've organised everything. Yeah, I think organisation is key, and just having that determination to just get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps.
And have there ever been any points at any time, you know, kind of over the last few years where you have not doubted, but kind of wondered if, you know, like, have you had a change in feelings or emotions, or and if so, how have you got out of that?
I think you already know the answer to that, because we obviously talk and have been, you know, buddies throughout this process. So yeah, there have definitely been times when I've thought this is too much to sort of take on, but that's the great thing about CILEx, because the flexibility, you know, is there. So if you take on 2 subjects and a coursework subject and you think, oh, this is too much, then you can, you know, stop, take one back and do it in the next exam sort of season, which I've done a few times. I've done it recently where, you know, I thought I'll take on my last 2 subjects and get them done, quickly realised there was just, you know, too much there to do in such a short space of time. So I took one away, so I could just focus on one at a time at this level. So yeah, I think the self-doubt is human nature, isn't it? But you just have to be confident in your ability and just kind of pick yourself back up. And I think a supportive firm, a supportive employer, and, you know, study buddies like you, I think need those people to say, no, come on, you can do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I do think that has helped, particularly with everything that's gone on in the last year, you know, because it has been incredibly difficult for so many people in so many different ways. And, you know, obviously we had that stage where the exams were delayed by a few months, and of course we switched to remote exams, which we'd never done before. And, you know, and we know obviously the kind of worries and stresses and strains that brought about. So I mean, but I think as well, the positive to come out of that is that now I think remote exams will be here to stay, and I think they're a wonderful thing, really, to be honest. I know they don't suit everybody, but I do think that most people will prefer, you know, rather than having to travel. And even though we only had to go to Ashford, there was always still that kind of, you know, anticipation of what might happen on the day. Will the car break down? Will there be an accident?
I used to get there sort of, I think my last exam was I think it was at 1 o'clock, and I arrived at the venue at 9 a.m. because I just, and it's 20 minutes up the road, but I just was like, I don't want anything to happen.
No, I remember it well, sitting in the waiting area. So. And I mean, if you're thinking about people who are coming into law, you know, whether they are, you know, if they've got a law degree already saying they want to qualify via the CILEx route, or if they're contemplating starting out from the very beginning, are there any specific skills that you feel those types of people need, or the kind of the better skills for people to have?
I think good sort of interpersonal skills is good to have, and that's not just for clients, that's with your colleagues as well, because, you know, you're dealing with a huge office of people, and you've all got to work together, you know, with accounts departments and your superiors as well. So I think good people skills are essential. Organisation as well is good to have, and I think you've got to have an interest in it as well. I think you wouldn't get very far if you weren't interested in the work that you do, and problem solving as well, because a lot of law is just, you know, solving problems. So I think if you've got those things, then you can definitely go far.
And so you're in the commercial area of law, aren't you? So are there any specific skills for your particular area you think that it's good for people to have?
Again, I think problem solving, no day is the same. I think, you know, the problems that you get are very varied. So you need to be able to sort of think on your feet and move quickly. You know, often people don't want to wait for things. I think it's the same interpersonal skills, good communication, confidence as well, I think, is important.
Yeah. And I would say as well, I was just thinking about it actually whilst I was asking you the question, and again, this is something that we've all experienced, is sometimes you have to expect the unexpected and be able to work around the unexpected, because sometimes things do kind of come out of nowhere, and you've got to be able to, sometimes you've got to accept that things aren't going to go the way that you expected or the way that the client hoped or expected, and you've got to be able to not only communicate that to the client, but also be able to rationalize it in your own head as well, because sometimes things are out of your and everyone else's control, you know.
Yeah, so, definitely.
So my next question was actually going to be, when and what was your first legal job? But we know, obviously, as you said earlier, that the firm that you're in now is the only firm you've ever worked for. However, you started out as a pool secretary. Was that the first? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was just in a typing pool. So we did litigation, wills and probate, conveyancing, which I think was actually great because I just got so much experience very quickly of all the different areas. And then I did that for a while, and I had my daughter, and then it was only sort of like last year that I became a paralegal for the commercial department.
So did you, the kind of decision to specialise in commercial, how did that come about?
Well, I think when I was a secretary, we kind of all were allocated to departments, and I was more kind of for the property department. And then eventually I started working solely for the commercial director, the head of the department. So it kind of went that way anyway for me, but I do find it interesting. So it was, I was happy to take that on, and it's just kind of gone on from there.
Yeah, right. And if you had to choose another area of law, what would you choose and why?
I think probably family, because I do find it very interesting. And I think that, it's brilliant that you are making such a difference to people's lives at a time when, they really need a bit of hand holding and things. So probably, I wouldn't change what I do, but if I had to, then it would be that.
Yeah, fair enough. And so when you think about kind of the last 12 months, how has this impacted on your work?
I think we've all had to adapt to, remote working and, the constant changes literally overnight. I mean, it was overnight, obviously, that we went into sort of a lockdown and offices and things got shut. So I think with homeschooling, when the schools shut, and remote working and adapting to the changes in environment, I think I've learned that I can spin a lot more plates than I ever thought that I could. So I think that's definitely a positive that's come out of the last 12 months.
Good.
And
obviously there are some changes that are kind of here to stay, I would imagine. Is there anything that you're doing now in your work that you weren't doing, say, kind of February last year? Are there some things that have kind of are here to stay, basically?
I think a lot more, home working, people are kind of realizing that you can get a lot more done when you work from home. So I think that kind of adapting to that kind of way of working, definitely.
Fab. And what do you hope for your future career in law?
I think for the moment I'm taking every day as it comes. I want to get through my exams, and I just want to absorb and learn so much through my supervisors. So that when the time comes, I'm just ready to hit the ground running, and just see where it takes me, really.
Okay, so you've got 2 more exams to sit. That's right, isn't it? And then what happens after you finish the exams?
So then you have to you become a graduate when you finish your exams, and then you have to complete a portfolio to become a fellow. And that involves kind of giving examples of work that you've done and how you have achieved certain outcomes that CILEx set. But once you're in a role where you are, really taking on that more independent work and things, that kind of comes naturally anyway. So
yeah. Okay, fabulous. And if we've got any students, kind of listening, or anybody that wants to pursue a career in law, what's your final piece of advice that you would give to somebody?
I would say just go for it, because when I started, I'd kind of thought about it for a good year or two before I actually started. And you think, do I have enough time? Can I do it? And I'd say just go for it. Go for it, because the flexibility of CILEx is so great that no matter what life throws at you, you can put things on hold for a while. You can take a bit of pressure off. You can, take on more pressure and more exams if you have the capacity to. So I'd say just go for it, definitely.
Yeah. And actually, I would totally agree with that, because, we've both experienced that. I've had a period of time where I was away on holiday, on a 3-week holiday, and so I decided not to sit exams kind of that January, but it didn't make any difference. So I spent the time, completing the client care and legal research modules instead. And I think often with kind of these big decisions, they feel worse. The thought of it actually feels worse than the reality, doesn't it? So, and I think once you get it underway and once you get it started, then it's kind of it gets you kind of in the momentum, but it also, you can still put the brakes on if you need to. So
definitely, yeah. And I think I was quite surprised to learn, because when I started, I thought, can I do all of this independent learning? It is all at home, you've got to have that motivation. But actually what I found is there is just such a huge community of students across the whole country doing these courses in these units, and they are so easy to find, so that you can, we were just talking about WhatsApp groups that have been created, and online communities where you can talk to people in the same boat as you, so you aren't alone. You could look at it and think, I've got to do this all by myself and figure it all out by myself, but you don't.
Actually, you don't. Yeah. And I found with reaching out to CILEx lawyers as well on kind of LinkedIn, and when I've asked questions, as I'm passionate about the routes into law, whichever route that may be, but when I've had specific questions about, for example, obtaining practice rights as a CILEx lawyer, and I've just reached out to people on LinkedIn, and people are amazing. The kind of information that they're happy to give you and share their experiences with you, and there is a whole network of people out there that you, like you say, you think that you're going into it alone, but actually you're not. So
100%.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, well, that's wonderful. Thank you ever so much for sharing your story, and obviously good luck with the remainder of your studies. I know that we've spoken many times about what we intend on doing when we finally qualify, and
I don't know what we'll do with all that spare time, Steph.
I think we're going to have to start a new hobby of some sort.
Definitely.
That's lovely. Thank you ever so much, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, won't you?
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Roots into Law with Stefanie Smith, supported by Tiger Law, a new breed of law firm for you and your business. Find us on YouTube or wherever you normally listen to your podcasts, and be sure to click subscribe.